Podcast number 3. We live TBD. Keena Atkinson. Your girl.
I'm Keena. Miss Rougie Wellness.
Hey, I'm Drew. Back to basics, and then Pancake Cafe Stoughton. Very excited to do this. I mean, I feel like since we've been doing this, it's grown a more cohesive relationship with you and Andrea and I, and seems like we're talking every other day.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yes.
I love it. Real quick for our audience out there, you know what the mission is, and we really want to help unveil the authentic version of yourself. So anytime we're having conversations, we want to be very deliberate and intentional. And we kind of feel like we weren't that intentional last week. So
our bad.
Yeah, our bad. We drifted.
If y'all felt confused, rightfully so, because we felt a little bit confused too. Like when we looked at the content.
Yeah.
So we'll do better.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll do better.
We're excited.
Yeah.
Lots of reflection.
Yes.
Love word hierarchy. I've been taking that and I've been running with it in everything I do. And I love you so much for that. I'm so happy that you have full permission to coach me in anything we do. Always, all the time.
Okay.
But like you and Andrea and I discussed, we really didn't get the grasp of what word hierarchy is.
Yeah.
And this is your baby.
Okay.
So I want you to present it to our viewers.
All right.
And what it is, and then let's go through that content.
Okay. So, all right. So word hierarchy, the way that hierarchy in language has been delivered to me, it came to me through yoga. I'm a 500-hour certified yoga instructor. I've taught at least 200 hours of yoga training to people who want to become yoga instructors. And hierarchy in language came out that way for me. When I was in yoga training, we were talking about how to give people the space they need to find their expressions in their poses or in their practice, the way that best serves them. And so taking out that language of hierarchy, the language of the different levels, because what it does is it makes it a competitive thing, and competition has no place in you experiencing yourself in your fullness. If you are interested in living in the moment, being who you are, as you are, and having acceptance and peace with that, hierarchy does not exist. So an example of what hierarchy would look like in a yoga practice would be if the instructor said, the advanced version of this pose, or this is the beginner, or here's what somebody would do who is an intermediate, right? So you're doing beginner, medium, advanced. And so if you're in your yoga practice, right? And I don't know, have you done yoga before, Andrew?
Yeah, I do yoga all the time, girl.
So,
you know what I'm saying?
So
keep bending this belly around.
So I think the thing is if you the goal might not necessarily be to reach for the advanced, because it's like, okay, if I say I'm not reaching for the advanced level of the pose, what does that say about me, right? Am I lazy? Is that where I'm supposed to be putting myself in that category, So in yoga, okay, there's such thing as, beginner, medium, advanced, hard, medium, easy, longer, things like that, right? It puts you into a competitive state of mind. It changes your being into something that has a value, okay? So I think one of the key things with hierarchy is the value part.
I kind of want to resonate with some of the things that you're saying. So when word hierarchy, I love when you said it places you into a state amount of competition, right? So beginning, middle, end, I am putting a value on myself based on the people around me, if they're advanced or if they're medium, who has more time. What I want to ask you is, because we talk about this a lot, good, better, best, that's word hierarchy.
It is when you are putting it into a place of talking about something that should not have such a value assigned to it. You can, so here's the thing, yes, you can say good, better, or best if you're talking about something that has a quality to it, right? So like when we were talking about, okay, how are you today? What does good mean? Right. So then you might say, yeah, like that doesn't really, what's the value? You don't know what the value is.
Right.
So somebody can say, I'm doing good. And you can be confused as to what that means, because have you agreed on what good means, right? So then it can have a value, because your question is going to be to who. This is who is that good to? What does good mean to you today, right? And does it change tomorrow? I don't know. But so something that is good might mean, you know what good means, right? You're like, okay, good means something elevated, positive, something. If you were going to have a scale, this on this side of the scale, if bad is on this side of the scale, you're right. Bad, better, or better or best. Those are going to have a scale, right? Mm-hmm. So those are on a scale. They're hierarchical, but in terms of the value, right? So hierarchy in language is value. So think about it like this. Today I was talking to somebody, and I was like, there is no right or wrong. And so using those type of words like right or wrong in language puts a hierarchy on things. And I was like, I can't say anybody is right or wrong. I think it's a perspective. Because again, if you said to who is this right to? Who is this wrong to? If somebody says, I went and robbed a bank today, somebody's going to say, that's
good job. Good job. Yeah.
Somebody will say that, and somebody will say that's bad.
Right.
And so then the question is, who is that good to?
Right.
And who is that bad to? It might be unfathomable that somebody might think that it was a good idea to rob a bank, but people rob the bank. They do that.
Right.
And they're going to say, I did a great job robbing the bank today. Right. So then it's like, is it good? Is it bad? Is it right? Is it wrong? Yeah. You're putting a hierarchical value on something where there is not enough context to discern that if you are assigning that. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. No.
But more.
I got one. Yeah. Meaningful and relevant.
Okay. Go ahead.
Okay. So, I love this. By the way, I love the way we do our shadow work. I'm gonna do this. Remember, we talk about this.
Okay.
So like, it really resonates with me. It's like, the hierarchical language. I'll say right for now, how I'm receiving it. It really like derives on a person's like values and beliefs.
Yes.
Because if we're placing a value on a how I'm interpreting it, like a surface level word, right? Because it's not specific. It doesn't have any emotion behind it, right? We're not able to resonate with it. Like you said, like my definition of good is like average. So if someone's like, Drew, man, all right, you're doing good. I'm like, what? I don't want to be average, bro. Like, but that's how I look at good, because I want to be phenomenal. I want to be superb. Like, those are words that I resonate with, and still hierarchical, right? But like at a very high level hierarchy. So I really just, like, when I think about like unveiling someone's authentic version of themselves, like even when we're like, oh, how do you feel? Oh, I feel good. No, I'm like, how do you feel? I feel really joyous today. I feel really prosperous. I'm sad today, or I'm disappointed because I didn't get enough sleep, or I'm tired because of this. Ever since we've talked about this, I've been more specific with just my emotions, because then I feel as if I'm being more in tune with myself.
Yes.
And that if I'm in tune with myself, I can demonstrate myself and the message I want with other people appropriately, and they can resonate with that message.
Yes. So basically what you're saying is that you are becoming a more concise and clear and effective communicator.
Let's do that.
Because of the way that you're being deliberate with your language, instead of being surface, instead of being void of context.
Void of context. I love that.
So, and then the other part of what you said is when you said, well, to me, good means this, and I strive for superior and this and that. I think that's where the agreements come in, right? So it's like, like when you was like, well, what does dope mean to you? Right. And so you're so silly. So when you asked me, what does dope mean to you? I described to you what that means for me.
Yeah.
Now we have an agreement. So now we can use that word in our language.
Yeah. We have in
our communication.
We have a mutual agreement.
A mutual understanding. And now we can use that word freely without concern about context, right? Yeah. And so that is an agreement that we made within the in the conversation.
Yeah.
You know, like this is how people build language, right?
Yeah.
This is how siblings, when they're little kids, like me and my sister, you know, there's words that we say, we know what it means. Like it's just like those, what do I want to say? I kind of want to say nuances. And then I also want to say, again, agreements.
It's like puns, inside jokes. Yeah, those.
Inside.
The meaning behind the meaning that you guys have established.
Yeah, so those things can be established.
Yeah.
And understood. But removing hierarchy from language, it creates more room. It creates more space, right? For authentic and concise and clear communication, because you're no longer being you're no longer in a competitive state.
Yeah.
You're no longer in a state of aspiring to be anywhere else but in that moment of where you are or of who you are, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you were to think about what hierarchy means in society or in the workplace, okay? And me and you have an understanding about this, like how we can use the pilot metaphor, because we have a mutual understanding about Eric Thomas and his program.
Secrets to Success, yeah.
Right, and his secrets to success. So, you know, so if you were to think about in a workforce, you got your beginner level people, or, you know, entry level. You have your people who have seniority. You have your upper status, you know, the CEOs and the management and supervisors, right? Now, if we were thinking about it from a place of hierarchy, and if this is a business that works in that framework, then whoever comes in as the beginner or the entry level person, their goal is to get to those upper levels if they want to achieve a higher status. Mm-hmm. So then the question becomes why they want to achieve that higher status, because they see more value there, because that is what is put on there, instead of seeing value in exactly who they are and where they are with whatever skills they have, and being okay with that, and then also being okay with whatever happens next. Right? But of course, the title, the money, the position, the respect, in those type of positions, unfortunately, it rises as you rise through the command chain. It shouldn't be like that, though. Right? Like if you look at it like the person who scrubs the toilets is just as valuable as the person who built the house that you live in. Right? Or the person who approved your loan. Right? For you to start your business. If nobody was scrubbing the toilet, then the toilet would be overflowing with disgusting, you know, mold and mildew and bacteria, poop, all of that stuff, right? So my goodness, they're so valuable to operate to the circle of life, right? The ants are no more or less important than the antelope, right? Or the lion or the owl.
Well, so can I, so while we're talking about analogies of hierarchies within business, we did mention Eric Thomas and Secrets to Success with the pilot metaphor. Can I circle back to that just so that our audience knows what that is?
Yeah.
So the pilot metaphor, and again, we're not paid sponsored by Eric Thomas, but Eric Thomas, if you're listening, we come into your retreat.
We come into
May 2nd through May 8th.
Okay.
We drop stats for that, so you better show up.
We're investing in our success.
Eric Thomas and the pilot metaphor, for those of you who don't know what that is he had mentioned that, you know, you need grounds crew, you need flight attendants, and you need pilots, right? And then you need passengers, right? And this was derived around, and I don't want to drift, so let's keep us on track. But it was derived from, you know, knowing your why, and people like that don't know their why. If they want to buy a t-shirt, they go to a job so they can buy a t-shirt. As soon as they don't want to buy that t-shirt anymore, they're done. They don't want to work there.
Yeah.
But he was saying that himself has so many responsibilities of taking care of his people. He looks at himself as a shepherd. So he's got sheep to feed. He's got to feed his leaders. He's got to feed his leaders' teams. He's got to feed his leaders' families, teams. Yeah. Right? It's just the trickle-down effect. And that's where he was saying the importance of, like, you know, building and empowering your grounds crew. Like, hey, you have an important job. Like, when I go speak as a pilot in a seminar, I need to make sure the mics need to be working. The speakers need to be working. The audio needs to be working. People got to be there.
Yeah.
But I have to focus on this part of the project, and I need you to focus on this part of the project. But it doesn't make us any less valuable on what we're doing you're just doing what's a necessity.
Yeah, all essential.
The essentials. Yeah. So
yeah, all essential. And also, like, the other part is you can have the establishment, you can have the staff, you can have the boss, the CEO, you can have all of that, right? But if you don't have any customers, if you don't have any patrons, then you still have nothing, right? Like, you need every single one of those elements is essential in order for the operation to even exist, right? When you talk about CEO, entry-level worker, whatever, new hire, it's a false belief that it goes like this, because really it's this. It's flat, not up and down, not a pyramid. It really should maybe be a circle, or it should be like a line. But I think a circle, honestly, I think a circle is a better way to look at it, because it keeps it whole. It makes it whole. You look at the way that hierarchy works, like, only people at the top are the ones who benefit the most, and they benefit the most because they are supported by everybody below them. Whereas if you think about it as a circle, again, everybody is equally supported. There's equity and therefore equality. However, everybody is doing what the things that they thrive in best, right? And this is talking about hierarchy in business, but we're talking about it in language. We could go for examples of, and we're talking about things that people place value on that are already inherently valuable because they just are what they are. And there is no assigned, and we should not assign a value to it, right? So if you were going to assign the value of good or bad, you can assign good or bad to the quality of your phone, right? Like, this phone is a phone, and you know what that means to you. That already the word phone has the value. You know what to expect from that, right? But then if you were going to say what's the quality of that phone, then you can give it good, bad, better, worse, right?
Right.
But let's say if you were going to assign a value to something like boy or man, you cannot assign like a hierarchical term to man, because again, it's to who, right? And when I say man, I mean in opposition to woman, so you cannot say men have a higher value than women. However, we live in a patriarchal society, so like, due to the societal norms, men are perceived to have a higher value than women because of the access, because of the the treatment, because of all of those things, the way that the laws are written, all of those things, right? The things that women have to fight for is because somewhere along the line it was perceived that men have a higher value than women. Right? Instead of realizing that men have a value of their own, women have a value of their own. Both are essential, right, to the operation.
I really resonate. Oh, am I doing this? Or
Go ahead.
Okay. I really resonated with when you talked about placing that hierarchical value on, like, a gender, right? So, like, when I think about my upbringing, my father taught me that being a good father, or a great, I say good father for the sake of just our relationship. Being a good father was, you take care of finances. You know what I mean? Time wasn't important to him. Connecting wasn't important to him. And he taught me that, right? But every 2 weeks, he would hit my mom's hand, or that check would come in the mail, or he'd come by and buy me some new basketball shoes and take me out to eat, and he spent minimal time. So, like, even in my relationship with Andrea, we grew up and we went through trials and tribulations because I thought I was a great man. I thought I was a great father because I was working 3 jobs. I was in school. I was doing nothing but finances.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
All the time.
As was demonstrated to you.
As I was, what do we say? As I was conditioned that way, right?
Yeah.
So I thought I had this perception of I'm a good man because I pay the bills, where there are other people, and now my values have changed, right?
Yeah.
So I thought I was a horrible man then.
Yeah.
But other people are like, no, to be a good man, you gotta be connected, or to be a good man, you have to spend time with me, or to be a good man. So, like, when you said that, it's like it's intriguing to me that we really don't understand people's values until they're specific, until they're clear, until they're concise with why things are good or why things are best. When we had that mutual understanding and mutual agreement of what dope was, that was like what, last week or 2 weeks ago?
It was
a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, it was like a week or two.
And then remember when we said dope earlier today before the podcast started? I damn near threw the chair out the window. I got up, jumped up and down. But when you said good man, I'm like, ooh, like I almost got chills, you know? Because it's like you said, it's a social normality. Yeah. Right? We talk about, oh, she's such a good woman. Oh, she's such a good man. Yeah. And it's like, well, what does that even mean to you? What does that mean? Yeah, like. Because
to the person who you're telling them that to, they may or may not even agree with that.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean?
And
if
then
somebody, go ahead.
No, yeah. But that was the thing, because then we're in false realities.
Yes.
Because I feel like I know what you mean, and you feel like you know what I mean,
right?
But really, we're going this way,
right?
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and so that's why it's more effective and way more real, I guess I would say, to say what the qualities are. To say, like, instead of saying, you know what, you're a good man, to be like, you know what, I like the fact that you show up. I like the fact that you do this. I like the way that you communicate. I like the way that you're curious, the way that you ask questions. Because regardless of what good means to me or to you, because you might be like, well, I'm not good because I forgot to pay the light bill today. And I said I was going to pay it and I forgot to mail it off. Now you might feel like you're not good. But I might be like, what do you mean you're not good? You are good because you did this. Let's cut all of that out, right? I'm just going to validate the things that are important. You know, I'm going to tell you the things that I recognize, that I notice. I'm speaking more from a place of intentional rather than from a place of surface. I'm going beyond that surface.
Beyond the surface, the mission.
Yeah, you know what I mean? And so it's like, that is, you remove the hierarchy, you get to the authenticity, right? You get to the roots, right? Who you are, right? Let's do another example. Like, remember when you said, I stayed out all night with that father and daughter, you know, you was right? Yeah. But to Drea, you was wrong. Yeah. Right? So it's not about right or wrong. Right? Because you can both be, it's not about right or wrong. It's about the fact that you made a decision that I thought that this was the best decision to make. Yeah. I thought this was the right decision to make. Right. I thought that was the right decision. Yeah. But also, even though I made the best decision that I thought to make at that time, I also disrespected her preferences, right? Or I also did not respect her preferences. I did not prioritize her preferences. I prioritized somebody else's preferences, right? If you were going to say right or wrong, it's more so about, in that context, priority. Yeah. Not what was right or wrong, good or bad. Right. You're not bad, right? Like, people cannot be bad people. I tell people all the time, like, there are no bad people. Right. There are people who make decisions that either people that most agree with
or disagree with,
right? There are people that most people like or that they dislike, but not all, because there are no absolutes. Right. You know what I mean? So, you know, to you, the decision that you made was like that was where your priority was. But you're not bad. And if there can be no bad people, then just as equally there cannot be any good people. Right? Removing those hierarchical beliefs, remove those type of things, right? And then strips you down to just what is. And that what is essential to being present in the moment and dealing with what we'll talk about in a later episode, dealing with acceptance. Yeah. Right? Because now I don't see you as your labels. Yeah. I see you as who you are. Yeah. Who I'm looking at, the qualities and the characteristics of you. That is what I see. Yeah. But who you are, if I assign value to something that is already valuable, right? If you talk about unconditional love, you already deserve love. You don't have to do anything to work for that. You already are deserving. You already are that, right? There's nothing further that you have to do to be eligible, right? One of the things that helped me with that understanding, I'm gonna zip it for a second. One of the things that helped me with that understanding was last year when somebody told me, like, everybody deserves love. Everybody, like unconditional love, you just love everybody, right? Nobody has to do anything to be eligible. And now my mind was blown because I was like, what do you mean? People got to work for this love? You know what I mean? Like, people got to work for this, you know? And so I sat with that for like 4 weeks, okay? Every day, just really pondering and meditating on it. And I was like, okay, I'm getting it. I was understanding love the way that I was conditioned, right? I was taught that I had to do things in order to be eligible for love, in order to unlock levels of love. I thought I had to do stuff, right? You get good grades, then you deserve love. If you make me proud, you deserve love. So my love,
conditional love.
Yes. Yeah, so my understanding was I have to please people in order to be eligible for love. I have to make sure that it's not about me. It's about who am I pleasing to be eligible, right? When I thought about it like this, like, oh my God, I'm assigning love to all the things that I do because that was how I was trained. Mm-hmm. What if my legs didn't work? If I was in a wheelchair and I could not walk around and knock on doors and deliver food to people, would I be any less deserving? No. Mm. If I had cancer or something and I was in the hospital recovering from cancer, going through chemotherapy and radiation, and I could not show up for work and I couldn't earn income, am I any less deserving of love because I cannot work? Am I any less deserving of love because I don't cook dinner 7 days a week? Mm. It's the doing that I thought had to make me, I did all these things, so I should be able to get love. Mm. No, there's no hierarchy there. Yeah, you deserve it either way. You don't have to, it's not points. It's not a video game. Oh, let me get all the coins. I got 100 coins in my bag. I can trade them in for love.
I'm ready. Hold on. I have to mental note this because I want to, deserving love. So just to circle back to the word hierarchy before I go into the deserving of love, because I want to touch on that for like 10 to 15 minutes.
Yeah, this is all hierarchy for the record.
I know. I'm so excited. Okay. So just to recap, like, how I perceive it based on everything I've learned from you and everything that you've taught me. Thank you again for being a wonderful coach in my life, and thank you for allowing me to coach you as well. Yes. It's not always comfortable. We get uncomfortable sometimes.
But that's how we grow.
Be comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So I just take away, it's so many different things, but just the surface level words I avoid now. I'm working on being more specific with my emotions. I'm working on being more specific with my thoughts. I'm working on being more specific with the environment that I'm in. When anybody like inquires about a question, or even when I'm delivering a message. And I think I know, because I've been doing that consistently since we've had our conversation, that sending and receiving information has been a lot more clear. It's been a lot more concise. Mm-hmm. It's been a lot more understood. Mm-hmm. And I found that I have a lot of, I have more than what I expected. That's what I have to say. I don't have to conjugate that, but more than I expected, mutual understandings with people. And it's beautiful. So thank you for that. I do want to talk about deserving love. And then based on, so you were talking about how, love being conditional, unconditional, right? Mm-hmm. You were taught conditional love.
Transactional, conditional.
Transactional love, yeah. You were taught that in your upbringing, mm-hmm. With the environments you grew up in. I was taught conditional love. A lot of people that come from like an authoritative parent background they learn conditional love. Mm-hmm. Like you said, you got to work for it. You got to get good grades. I'm gonna pay you. Mm-hmm. You got to take out the trash. You get chore money. Mm-hmm. Hey, you did all these wonderful things in the house. Here goes your incentive. Yeah. Oh, you didn't do it. No, you're not doing anything this weekend. You're grounded. Yeah. But think about that and how how that affects us as a human being on like our internal values, mm-hmm. right? So if you're looking at the world like you need to work for my love, you also see the fact that you don't deserve love unless you work for it.
Yes.
And how defeating can that be mm-hmm. to oneself, mm-hmm. to be so brutal with yourself, mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. to say I don't deserve love unless I work for it.
Yeah.
That is that puts me in a very sad state of mind, And I think it's a social normality that people do that.
That's
like
programming.
I don't deserve your love. Right. I'm not worthy. I'm not valuable because there's nothing I've done to you or for you or with you in my word hierarchy, right? In the words that have a value that I've earned that,
Right.
you know, and again, indistractable. So I'm in a chapter right now where it talks about, you know, willpower and self-love and being compassionate with yourself, right? And it was just talking about, you know, the people, there's been many studies over many years, but people that show self-love and talk nicely to themselves and, you know, have positive affirmations and communicate with themselves in that regard are more inclined not to experience any type of ego depletion. And I don't know how much you've researched on ego depletion.
Well, I read the book.
You read the book, yeah. But it's like, you know,
and go ahead.
You place a high value on yourself.
Yeah.
It's like, no, hey, I made a mistake. I own that mistake, and I'm gonna make another mistake tomorrow.
Yes.
And I'm gonna enhance that mistake, and it's gonna be a better mistake than yesterday, you know? Yeah. But like, you know, people, again, we're not conditioned to talk to ourselves. We're not conditioned to
call
love
out.
Unconditionally love ourselves. Yeah. You know, and Andre and I really have had to transition from conditional love to unconditional love, and it's been a beautiful experience.
Yes.
You know, and even with all of our reflections that we go through and loving each other and knowing, like, when we create new habits or behaviors and then the next day it's like, oh, you didn't meet that expectation of that habit or behavior we just implemented. I'm like, babe, perfect. Like I have 21 days to keep failing. Yeah. You know, because it's gonna take 21 days to break the habit. Yeah. So babe, like, why do you become discouraged? And I become encouraged. Like, I failed today. I'm gonna see you again tomorrow, and I'm gonna fail again. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Have you seen Meet the Robinsons?
Yeah.
Do you remember when they was like, you made a mistake? Yeah. Do you remember that?
No, but I want to watch it now.
Watch it again.
Yeah. But like that self-love, like everybody's worthy. Yeah. Everybody's valuable. You know, and it's sad that, you know, so many people out there. Is it sad? It makes me sad. Okay. How about it puts me in a state of mind that it puts me in a state of mind of discomfort. Okay. It may, you know what I mean? Uncomfortable. Yeah, when I see people who don't value themselves or feel like they're worthy, I'm just like, you've just been in too many rooms where people have been demeaning you. People have been placing value on you based on what you do or don't do. And just to love yourself and to connect with yourself is a beautiful thing. Yeah. You know? But unconditional love, it's like, how would you recommend to like our audience when we're talking about unveiling their authentic version of themselves? How do we encourage? I mean, I think everything we've talked about on the podcast encourages self-love. We talk about word hierarchy and how you see yourself and how you see values and removing competition. Yeah. You know, because when you remove competition, it only leaves yourself. Yeah. When you remove other people. Yeah. But how can we, and maybe this will transition into our next podcast with acceptance and self-love, but how can we encourage them to start loving themselves unconditionally?
Well, you know? I think that definitely takes a lot of work on self-esteem, self-value, and self-worth. And I had to train myself because, mind you, that was my programming for 33 years, okay? That was my programming, that I had to get the coins, trade them in for love, okay?
I like that analogy.
So, yeah, thank you. I think that the main thing is realizing or asking yourself, what does freedom feel like and look like for you? You know, because if you are, well, first of all, again, like I said, to how to realize unconditional love is to just look at yourself and understand that everything is love. And that doesn't mean that you cannot be disappointed in other people, angry with other people, or dislike other people. All of those things, right? You can still, all of those things that people see as not equating with love, all of those things can happen, right? And so then for that part, I'll also say, even though that was the way that I was raised, my parents probably never told me that I was only eligible for love in those certain occasions, but that was the way that I translated their behaviors. Okay? They probably never said, oh, you can only, because I believe that my parents love me all the way, the whole time. I don't think that their love ever diminished for me when I didn't please them. But the way that they behaved towards me translated as that way for me. You know what I mean? So those were my interpretations, okay? I think that they loved me the whole time, but I interpreted that, little Keena interpreted the way that they interacted with me when I displeased them as they don't love me. My needs didn't feel met. Okay. So with that being said, learning what you need is important. And then having the courage to ask for that if it's not being met. Because when you talk about the way that your relationship has evolved with Drea, that was courage, right? When you talk about me and you coaching one another, even when it's uncomfortable, that is courage, okay? Because, and it's coming from a place of love, because we have a desire to grow, right? So we desire to not give up on each other. We have a desire to not just say, I quit you. And that's where people have abandonment things come up, right? Because they deal with like people quitting them, right? And that translates to them as they don't love me. And we don't recognize those programmings that we're dealing with until we sit down, do shadow work, and face them and confront those things, those beliefs, because they're all our interpretations, right? A lot of the things we interpret, nobody explicitly said to us. Okay. So how do you understand unconditional love? You chant that to yourself. You do whatever you got to do to retrain your brain to change your programming. Dump out. You have to detox your brain. That's what I had to detoxify. Dump out the things that I didn't put that there on purpose. Let me get rid of this and put in the stuff that I wanted in there. Okay. That's how that's part of the practice. And the reason to do that beyond that acceptance is because that makes you a free person. It makes you free. It gives you freedom. And then you get to reveal your authentic self. You get to unveil your authenticity.
Right.
You become free when you realize my existence is already valuable inherently.
Yeah.
I'm already worthy of unconditional love. When you realize those things, the hierarchy does no longer exist. You're no longer in the matrix, right? Because that's all, those are all societal fabrications to limit me, starting with my mind. So you find that freedom. There is no value to man versus woman, to right versus wrong, to positive versus negative, to big versus small, to child, middle age, adolescent, or old, right? People put hierarchy on age. People put hierarchy on body size. People put hierarchy on income. I want to be a high income. To aspire to earn 6 or 8 figures is because you have a certain goal, but it doesn't make you any better or worse, right? And it's not good to be a 6-figure earner. It just is. Okay? Just like the person who stands on the corner saying, "Can I get $1?" That's not good or bad either. It just is. Do you know what I mean? That's the being present in the moment.
I have a couple of resonations.
Let's hear it.
And then I have a transition for you. And I love that you dropped that acceptance, because we know we're going to talk about that next episode.
We're talking about that next time.
We're avoiding it because Andrea's not here.
But
because she wants to talk about it, we're going to talk about it next time.
Yeah.
The way your parents loved you, right? I always tell people, like, my father loved me. I firmly believe my father loved me with all of his heart. He just didn't know how to love me.
Or he just didn't love you the way that you needed him to love you.
Yeah. He didn't know how to demonstrate that love for me with how I needed love.
Yeah.
And I didn't know how
and little you.
Yep. And little me, I didn't know how to coach him on how to love me unconditionally or how to connect with me. So when we talk about unconditional love, so many variables, right? Like you said, it's like asking yourself, what do you need? What do you value? What do you believe in? What makes you happy? What enhances your happiness, I like to say. How do you like to connect? When you're receiving information, what's the best way you like to receive that information? When you receive love, what's the best way to receive love? What's your love language? And a lot of people don't ask themselves that, but as you ask yourselves those questions, you figure out, oh, this is what I love about love. This is my love language. This is how I like to connect with myself. Then once you know that about yourself, you can then coach other people on how to love you and how to connect with you and set those boundaries and those expectations. I I think about when you talked about acceptance, right? And we'll go into that later, but it's like I always tell people acknowledge, accept, alter, right? In any state that you're in, you know, you want to acknowledge your environment, the people involved, you know, the things that transpired, you know, the emotions, thoughts, and actions. You want to acknowledge all of that, right? And you know, at some point in time, you want to be able to develop yourself enough to where you see the raw reality, right? But then you want to accept those feelings that came with that raw reality, accept that pain, that trauma, that happiness, whatever emotions it triggered, accept where it took you.
Yeah.
Like, man, we were having this conversation about your parents, and I'm gonna start crying when you're talking about your parents, because it took me to a place that reminded me about my father, you know, but I had to stay in that moment. But accepting that it took me there, and no, I still got to do my shadow work with my dad. You know, I still have to forgive myself, and I have to forgive him for that disconnectivity.
Yeah.
You know, for him not going out of his way to ask me how I am or what cup does he need to fill into me today.
Yeah.
You know, and removing that guilt and shame from that, and understanding that it is what it is.
Yes.
I don't want to place value on it.
Right.
He learned what he was taught. So I can be the generation that helps encourage him to now communicate and connect with his brothers and sisters.
Yeah.
If I choose to do that, you know?
Yeah.
So acknowledge, accept, and then alter, right? So now that we've reflected and we've processed, now we're going to evaluate, right? So that's the alter part of it.
Okay.
Now we're going to say, okay, now I know based on all the stuff that's transpired how to love differently or how to connect differently with myself. And now I'm going to have an action plan and move forward. And even like you and me, remember, we had some acknowledge, accept, alter, some reflection, some processing, and some evaluating, right? Yeah. And we were able to set up boundaries and expectations. And it was so inspiring, so enlightening. I can't remember how many times you laughed and I laughed while we were coaching each other, and not laughing like mocking, but laughing like it was refreshing.
Yes.
You know, it was so enlightening for me.
That's what I was thinking.
Enlightening, yeah. It was dope.
Yeah.
But for us to go there, and then we came up with an action plan, right? We're like, okay, so now I know I have your permission when this is said, you know, and then it puts you in a different state of mind. Perfect. I love that. Now I know how to love you.
Right.
Now I know how to connect with you. Now I can unconditionally love you. But what I want to end with is that acceptance piece. It's so important, because now that I've coached you, or you've coached me, right? Vice versa. I've coached you. I know myself. I know my values. I know my worth. I'm setting a boundary and an expectation with you, and it's unconditional, right? Whether you agree with it or not, if it's unconditional love, how do you accept that into your mantra and your personality and your values and your belief system? And how do you demonstrate that love to me that I need from you?
Okay.
Without changing who you are as a being, right? So that acceptance piece is, how do you accept it? You know, and I don't want you to answer that.
You already told me.
I know.
You gave the answer in there.
I know. And we gave each other a lot of answers. And for some different people.
So you're talking about for next time. Because something, when you talk about acknowledge, accept, evaluate.
Acknowledge, accept, alter.
Acknowledge, accept, alter.
Triple A.
And you talked about that. I just want to acknowledge that in that whole process.
Yeah.
When in the example of me and you coaching one another, all of those qualities, a lot of stuff was in there.
Yeah.
But you know what wasn't in there?
What was that?
Pride or ego. Okay.
Yeah.
When we were coaching one another, when we were having, you know, whenever you coach me or Keena coaches Drew.
Yeah.
Those things don't exist.
Yeah.
In order for us to evolve. We have to
remove our pride, remove our ego.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's the conversations that we have in order to grow and develop and love one another. Those are essential. Like what you said last week, we take out the I shouldn't have to tell you, because it's essential to coach people on how to love us. Because just like you said, there's so many variables and variety. There's no way a person can just know.
Right. It's unfair.
And it changes and evolves.
Yeah. And it grows.
And it grows.
The authentic version of yourself.
Yes.
Well, I think that concludes episode 3.
We could have gone, you know, like, I guess it concludes, but also acknowledging that, sure, we could go into a lot more, but we're going to leave y'all.
We want to keep it at 45 to 60 minutes, because we get 2 hours of Drew and Keena. Andrea. You know what I mean?
We got to give it to you in bite sizes.
Yeah.
Morsels.
You might have to subscribe to that membership.
Right.
Plant that seed. 2 hours of in-depth.
We're going to make a Patreon for y'all.
Yeah.
What
but
more?
Next week, acceptance.
Acceptance.
We're going to accept the fact that Andrea will be here.
She will be here.
She will be present. She will be aware.
Yes.
I love it. I love where we left off.
I do too.
Unconditional love and acceptance.
And acceptance.
I think that goes hand in foot.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I agree.
So,
absolutely.
Jason Haithman from At Your Core Communications. Give him a round of applause. He's been killing it. And if killing is a hierarchy word, y'all, he's been snapping. If that's a hierarchy word, he's just been above expectations. You know what I'm saying? All about it.
Yes. Thanks, y'all, for tuning in. Catch us on all of the major platforms: Spotify, Apple, Google Podcasts, YouTube. We're available on all of those.
Yes. And like our TBD Facebook page, please.
Yeah.
All about it.